Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm jumping a little out of order here as I do an episode from season 6, Spring Fever, and I will explain why I've jumped ahead here shortly. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. This episode was written by Rod Peterson and Claire Whitaker, who had written a number of episodes of The Waltons, as well as being producers, and Claire was our story editor. It was directed by Richard Chafee, as we knew him, Dick Chafee, who was our longtime script supervisor on The Waltons. Spring Fever, as imagined by the title, deals with things happening in the beginning of spring, love in bloom, foliage and leaves and flowers in bloom, and how these things impact not only members of the Walton family, but also the Baldwin sisters. The episode starts with spring cleaning going on, and everyone is being very industrious in cleaning the inside of the house. We're preparing, it's going to be painted. Jim, Bob, and Ben are tasked with painting the living room. The girls are cleaning the drapes and mending them, so very industrious things going on. In the garden, weeding is going on and probably some additional spring planting. John and Grandpa and I think Jason are in the garden when Miss Emily drives up, and Miss Emily is not so good at driving and crashes into the garden fence. And of course, the Walton men run over to make sure she is okay. She has grave concerns about Miss Mamie and asks if Grandpa can come over right away to see her and address these concerns. Grandpa, although he says he doesn't have his license, he says he is willing to drive, but Miss Emily says that she will go ahead and drive. Arriving at the Baldwins' house, Grandpa finds out that they have a rose bush that is not doing well, and Miss Mamie says that she also had a dream in which she felt that it was sort of an omen that the judge, their papa, was sort of calling her, and she feels that there's a connection between the rose bush that she feels is dying and it being a sign that this means her days are numbered. Grandpa, on the other hand, says that the plant's just a little sick. He diagnoses it as
aphids and thrips.
At school, we see Erin talking with a friend of hers, Ruby, played by Heather Totten, who is also Ben's current girlfriend, and she's talking about Ben just getting a little fresh with her. So she and Erin are sharing girl talk. Jim Bob's on and off girlfriend is Patsy Brimmer, in this case played by actress Debbie Gunn. And this is the reason why I said we are touching on this episode, because I recently had an opportunity to talk with Debbie. She had reached out to me, which was very exciting to reconnect with yet another guest star from the Waltons. And so we did have a lovely chat, and that will be shared with you in the very next segment. Patsy comes by as Jim Bob and Ben are painting, and she thought that she and Jim Bob were going on a picnic, which Jim Bob has forgotten about. He's sort of taking Patsy for granted. Now she comes in looking oh so cute in short shorts and a little top, and Ben thinks she looks terrific. She's got a picnic basket, so he decides, since Jim Bob isn't available, that he'll go with Patsy on this picnic. So hence the beginning of a bit of a conflict between the boys and their girlfriends. The Walton family decides to celebrate all the spring cleaning that they will have a picnic and that they will invite the Baldwin ladies, since Grandpa says that, they're not doing real well. They're not feeling very bright and cheery because of this concern about the roses, and Mamie feeling that this is the end for her. Ben's picnic with Patsy escalates, and next thing you know, Ben is dating Patsy, and Jim Bob has, in retaliation, out of jealousy, has decided to ask out Ben's previous girlfriend, Ruby. So he now has a date with Ruby, and so this little jealous rivalry continues on. In this shot, you see the vehicle coming in, and it stops, and then Grandpa and Elizabeth get out. Grandpa has been theoretically driving Elizabeth, despite having said that he doesn't have a license. But then as the vehicle comes in, you see a wider shot where you wouldn't be able to tell that it wasn't Will Geer driving, because, as I have mentioned before, Will Geer did not drive in real life. So, but then it edits in here before it comes in closer to the car when you see Grandpa get out. So at that point, the vehicle would have already been stopped. They cut to another camera angle where we see now Will exiting the car. As it turns out, he wants Jason and Elizabeth to dress up and come join him at the Baldwins, where he has cooked up this afternoon tea party and croquet and just trying to cheer the ladies up and get Miss Mamie out of her little funk and get her re-engaged in life. So Jason and Elizabeth and Grandpa are playing croquet. The ladies are watching. They're having some recipe, and then the rain starts and Grandpa tries to save the recipe but gets soaking wet. And anyway, it's a cute little scene and moment. As I mentioned, my next segment will be my chat with actress Debbie Gunn. And we had the opportunity in Spring Fever to have a scene together in Ike's store where Patsy expresses that Jim Bob, seems to not be speaking to her, is upset, whatever. And from what Mary Ellen says to Patsy, she gets a little encouraged and a little bit of hope, thinking that perhaps Jim Bob actually does still care about her. Both Ben and Jim Bob take their dates to the movies and, of course, bump into each other. They didn't know the other couple was going, so it's a very awkward night at the movies. And Debbie and I talked about this scene and the filming of it. It was quite fascinating to me. So do make sure to join us to hear that story. Once outside the movies, the boys almost get into a fight. So things have really just gotten completely out of hand with the silly rivalry between Ben and Jim Bob. I thought it was interesting that in one scene, Grandpa talks about how he would never give up and how horrible that is that Miss Mamie seems to have given up. And yet in the episode The Star, when that star fell, he thought that was an omen and took to his bed and decided that meant he was dying. And even in The Birthday, he was a little bit thinking that it was over for him. So not entirely true what Grandpa's saying about he would never give up. Still trying to cheer up the Baldwin sisters, Grandpa has a creative idea and drives up in a horse-drawn hay wagon. And I was really disappointed to not get to be part of this hayride and picnic and everything, because I say that John Curtis has sniffles and I have to stay home. So consequently, I missed all of this fun stuff. And they go and they have a picnic with the Baldwins. He decides to take them fishing. He decides that fishing is going to be the thing that somehow makes a difference with the ladies. While Jim Bob and Ruby both sort of confess that they each wish that they were back with their former dates, Ben has been getting ready to put a little bit of a move on Patsy. Back at the fishing hole, Grandpa has baited their hooks, and then he hands off a pole to Miss Mamie, and while he's doing something else, Miss Mamie gets a fish on the line, and so she ends up pulling in this fish. She ends up her feet in the water, the whole thing, and she's like a little girl. It's sort of this completely the moment and the excitement of the moment pulls her out of her doldrums, and all of a sudden she is ready for adventure again and has come around from feeling that she is ready to give up on life. As Ben tries to make a move on Patsy, and she is rebuffing him, Jim Bob comes in, and Jim Bob and Ben end up getting into it. They get into an actual wrestling match, and Elizabeth sees it, tries to get the parents, but Jim Bob and Ben finally sort of wrap up their fight and ultimately make up with their girlfriends. So all is resolved within the family because Jim Bob and Ben are fine with each other again. They're both back with their initial girlfriends, and they finish up with a final singing as they ride along on the hay, as it's Jason's playing guitar and it's getting darker, and so a lovely scene that I didn't get to be a part of, but I still enjoyed in watching the episode. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the episode Spring Fever, and my precursor to the next segment that you will see, where I speak with actress Debbie Gunn, who played Patsy Brimmer in a number of episodes of the Waltons. So I hope you'll join me for that. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.